Okay, so there's a common objection that we hear whenever discussing or um, pointing out the observations of such a blatant genocide and a blatant Holocaust that occurred in the past, right? Which includes slavery. So, in the Bible, slavery is legal, all right? During this slavery, every 7 years, you have to give people the opportunity to be free. All right. And you cannot accept them as your slave during that, was what we call a jubilee. All right. So that never occurred. Along with the extraordinary atrocities that everybody details, the lynchings, the whippings, the chains, the leaving people in a hot box underground, eating the dogs, eating people, raping whomever they choose, men, women, children, boys and girls, eating certain slaves, and I mean, it's just countless. So it's just absolutely extraordinarily asinine for people to imagine that that was not atrocious. So I want to leave people with an understanding or a rebuttal that I like to personally offer whenever people say, well, I ain't never did nothing. I never owned no slave. Okay, well, that's not my problem because neither did I. my ancestors were owned by slave owners. So therefore, you imagining in your mind that your ancestors never owned slaves is not my problem. Okay? This is a debt, it is not charity. All right? So eventually, I mean, it's going to be taken if you dumb enough to do what you doing. Okay? So just to let you know, don't be dumb. All right, so now for the sincere people out there, this is a rebuttal that I commonly use. Dealing with debts and mortgages in probate. Let me read this article for you. When a loved one dies, leaving property, debts, and a mortgage, and if he did not have a living trust, probate is required to sort everything out. Probate is the process of paying off the deceased person's final bills and expenses and transferring his property into the names of living beneficiaries. Dealing with debts can begin before probate is officially opened. Dealing with bills and mortgages before probate. Make a complete list of the descendants' liabilities even before the probate estate is opened. It will help streamline the probate process. Bills and statements you should look for include mortgages, lines of credit, condominium fees, property taxes, federal and state income taxes, car and boat loans, personal loans, including student loans, storage fees, loans against life insurance policies, loans against retirement accounts, credit card bills, utility bills, cell phone bills. After you've made a list of liabilities, divide them into two categories. Liabilities that will be ongoing during probate. These will be administrative expenses. Liabilities that can be paid off in full after the probate estate is opened. These are the descendants' final bills. Administrative expenses include the mortgage, condominium fees, property taxes, storage fees, and utility bills. These must be kept current until the estate closes. To the extent possible, the estate beneficiary should pay these bills until the probate estate is opened. The deceased's final bills include income taxes, personal loans, loans against life insurance and retirement accounts, credit card bills, and cell phone bills. The estate beneficiaries should not pay any final bills out of their own pockets, but should wait and let the estate's personal representative or executor deal with them in the process of settling the estate. See, that's a loophole for the dummies, the culprits of slavery's descendants. Because if they knew anything about their true accounts, right, which preserved value in the form of that can be traded into monies, and they knew how to become the administrator of their estate from birth, then they could easily take care of the specific debt of slavery and genocide and all the rest that's tied to it, with some liabilities, but nobody knows that, so they can't perform it. They're just little babies. With some liabilities, the beneficiaries will have to make a judgment call as to whether they intend to keep the assets with loans against them. If a beneficiary wants to keep the car or the house, he might want to continue paying down the debt. Otherwise, payment should be made from the estate. All right, you got that? Dealing with bills and mortgage during probate. The personal representative or executor of the estate will be responsible for taking over payment of administrative expenses and settling the decedent's final bills after probate is open. So there you go, an echo of what I just said earlier, and a loophole, because since you are the beneficiary, you're too dumb to execute this estate. So by acquiescence, you accept all bills from your ancestor who has died, and you cannot afford to pay them, or you may have insurance that attempts to give you enough to zero out your debt there. However, since you don't know to tell the executor to appoint you as the administrator of your birth trust that was put in place to secure your debts, then you're just literally screwed. Okay? So this will include determining which debts are valid and to what extent. Then assessing which, if any, of the decedent's assets. A decedent is a dead person. Okay? That's who we're talking about. The ancestors who have died, dead of slavery, genocide, and Holocaust, and all the rest of that, should be liquidated or sold to pay ongoing estate expenses and final bills. If the beneficiaries have continued to pay some or all of the decedent's bills prior to the probate estate being opened, the personal representative should then reimburse them accordingly, with one exception. So I'm not going to read the rest of this. I didn't realize I was holding you up this long, but I want to show you where it all started. Okay? This goofy goof troop looking, egg hat wearing looking boy wrote a decree called Dumb Diverses. That's what it's dumb. That's what it is. It's called dumb because it is dumb. So this dummy, Pope Nicholas V, okay, wrote a papal bull, which is a decree from the Pope, the office of the Pope, which is the law of the earth. So now issued on the 18th of June, 1452. It authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer Saracens. That means sons of Sarah. Okay, so we already know, if you watch me, which you probably don't, because I only got 2 subscribers. The sons of Sarah are the Israelites. And Sarah is the daughter of Hamashiach and pagans, and consigned them to perpetual servitude. Perpetual means ongoing indefinitely to the end of time. So this dummy thinks that his decree held this type of power to where, since the entire earth is food and run by that seat, it was Satan's seat, okay, then he imagined that this was going to be successful and go into in perpetuity. I mean, to the end of time, that Israelites would always be perpetual servants, which is true to an extent in the righteous manner of servitude. However, they perverted servitude into having a person's whole boot grinding on your neck all day long while you're attempting to work. You ever tried that before? So now Pope Calixtus III reiterated the bull in 1456 with Inter Caetera, not to be confused with Alexander VI, renewed by Pope Sixtus IV in 1481 and Pope Leo X in 1514 with Praeselsi Denotionis. The concept of the consignment of exclusive spheres of influence to certain nation states was extended to the Americas in 1493. Remember what happened in 1472? Okay. Or 1492, I meant to say. All right. 1493, this decree, and that was co-signed by successor popes, and they continue to honor this order for the earth to perform, all right, was extended to the Americas in 1493. And we know that in 1492 there was a robber who came to the Americas that was fully occupied by hundreds of millions of indigenous peoples in North, South, and Central America. All right, so they surveyed the place, realized that their technology was inferior, and elected to conquer the entire land and kill whomever did not want to be subjected by them. All right. 1493 by Pope Alexander VI with Inter Caetera. All right, you got that? So now, here's the part you want to hear. To confirm the Portuguese trade rights. Portuguese trade rights. So these are the culprits of slavery that are going to go down in mystery. And I spell mystery MISTORY, which is my story. All right, so my people have a story, and their people have his story, because whomever wins, they just write out and erase the loser. So that's exactly what's going to happen to them as well. But that's historically, that's not what my people do. My people tell about the wins and the losses and the good and the bad that we personally do, and we hold responsibility for our personal effects. However, in this final battle, this final war of Armageddon that's being taking place here right before our very eyes, you got you know, Iran about to blow Israel to complete kibbles and bits, dust particles, and they're just gonna be flying all over Israel. So we already know that. Okay, so knowing that it's gonna cause a super war where ICBMs are gonna be flying all around the flat Earth and hitting heavily populated locations until everything is just useless. So that's why I'm saying to you that if you're prepared and knowing what's going to happen, then you'll know how to deal with certain things a bit better. All right, so to confirm the Portuguese trade rights, King Alfonso V appealed to Pope Nicholas V for support. See? The King of Portugal went to the Pope for support. Why? Because the Pope stole the Israelites' fortune that was handed down from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to himself, Israel, and then to his children. And then Joseph amassed a fortune independently in Egypt and became a pharaoh in Egypt, named Amenemhat III. So then it goes all the way down to the fortune that Israel came out with under Moses, whenever they left under Moses the Fourth, when they performed the Exodus. So he was also Pharaoh. His name was known as Senenmut. Okay, and Senenmut is the adopted son of Hatshepsut. So, I mean, this is not basic information. This is why I only speak to repentant Israelites, for one. For two, I'm speaking on a level to where people won't understand purposely, because I'm giving you the information pure and raw. So, I haven't learned how to do the no light technique of slowing it down a little TT bit as he uh, accepted the suggestion of dumb people. But at the same time, it's not as deep as it sounds. Just rewind the tape, figure out the names that I said, and look all the information up. Or you can look through my videos, or I will cite the videos for you in the comments as you ask questions. So now this information is necessary because whenever you deal with a debt, you have to be able to cite the problem. So the problem was this right here. This is just strictly for this particular bloodline of people. Okay, you got the Pope is a bloodline of people. Now, we're talking about before the Pope, the trans-Saharan slave trade was another bloodline of people that subjugated Israelites to servitude. So the Pope did nothing but conquer the sub-Saharan slave trade, and they renamed it to the transatlantic slave trade because they crossed the Atlantic in order to perform the trade. All right, so it's really simple information. It's just that, if you ask questions or we talk live and then I cite the sources for you, then it'll all start to make sense. Okay, so now to confirm the Portuguese trade rights, King Alfonso V appealed to Pope Nicholas V for support, seeking the moral authority of the church for his monopoly of what? Okay, monopoly of the slave trade that he was just authorized to uh, enact or conquer. He conquered the transatlantic slave trade on the behest of or the order or the decree of the Pope. This dummy right here, Pope Nicholas V. So that's what we're talking about down here. All right. So he seeking the moral authority of the church. That's what he chose to do. He believed that the Catholic Church, as was presented in the 1400s, has a moral authority in some kind of way. They think that their procession and line of authority traces back to Hamashiach, or Jesus Christ, as you guys call it. You understand that? So this imagination, right, is given to them by the Most High. They are under a strong delusion purposely by the Most High in order to make things happen properly for the elect who will be elected. The elected are prerequisite for an elect is Israelite. So this is why the whole world is being molded, and the propaganda goes out to spread elections throughout the earth purposely, because the Most High wants the elect to become elected and rule the entire earth everywhere. All right. So the bull of 1452 was addressed to Alfonso V and conceded Portugal's right to attack, conquer, and subjugate Saracens and pagans. We grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents, with our apostolic authority. That's what I described as the chain of custody of the authority that came from Hamashiach. This is what they think happened. But what actually happened was that the during the Dark Ages and the Renaissance, the apostle, what's the word I'm looking for? The Catholic line was hijacked by uh, a secret, many secret orders, but the most famous would be the Illuminati. Okay, so they came in, killed whomever they wanted, and then they took over they killed the entire what's them boys' name? Knights Templar, who had control of the Israelite fortune. So of course they were black people, and then you got the Byzantine Empire. You got Constantine was a black person who had to be an Israelite, because the reason I say that he had to be an Israelite is because um, the Most High is not going to present a duty and present himself or show a miraculous vision to a non-Israelite. It's just impossible. You understand? So that's what happened to Constantine. He's claimed he saw a cross in the sky or something, and he was going to take over the earth with the cross. Okay, so we grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents, with our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate the Saracens, the sons of Sarah, and pagans, and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms, duchies, counties, principalities, and other property, and to reduce their persons into perpetual servitude. Now, so let me give you an understanding of something here. So this sounds familiar. This process of invading, searching out, capture, and subjugate the Israelites and other pagans and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms. Okay, so this is what actually happened to Hamashiach as well. So that's why I was trying to express to you how the Byzantine line or descendancy was hijacked by Esau, the same way the Israelite line of Sanhedrin was hijacked by Esau, the Idumeans, Herod the Great, and the Herod Tetrarch. Okay, they were all Idumeans, and they replaced the Israelite Sanhedrin with the Idumean Sanhedrin, with the exception of one or two Israelites. So that's what I'm expressing to you, that that small group of people, maybe 70 people, 72 people, or something to that effect, right? Sought to capture Hamashiach and put him to death. So that's the same way that the Pope line was hijacked, and because the Most High, that's what I was trying to say. The Most High has to use dummies in order to get done what he needs done. Because no, if the Sanhedrin were original Israelites back during the time of Hamashiach, during his lifetime, if the king was an Israelite, you see, if the king's sons were Israelites, right, then they would have never elected to put Hamashiach to death. So the Most High needs dummies to do these things for him so that certain prophecies can happen. And then you can go to the next prophecy, go to the next step, and everything will be complete with the master planner of the Most High, utilizing dummies and even ourselves as being dummies. You see? So that's how all that works. I just wanted to make that clear. So now, these are, okay, the top contender of redress is the seat of the Pope, or the office of the Pope. Okay, so he's automatically in there, except for that the Pope is a puppet. Okay, so now the Pope used to be a puppet to the Jesuits. The Jesuits now have their leader in the seat of the Pope. So now the Jesuits were puppets to, they want to make it sound like they're the puppets to the Pope, but the Jesuits were the puppets to other families around the earth, ruthless satanic families that just murder indiscriminately, with the genocides all throughout Russia and with Stalin and all throughout Africa today and back then, and all throughout China. You got families that order these genocides all over the earth in order to try to hunt down the special person of the time, right? So just like how in Moses' day they were ordered to kill all the children, and then they missed Moses because he was the special person of the time. I'm liable to imagine that it just the spirit just automatically goes to the next person, and that's, you can't get that person because the spirit constantly just moves around to whomever is willing to accept it. So there's no possible way you can't kill a spirit. So you trying to kill as many Israelites as you possibly can with abortion and with Obamacare, and you want to expand Obamacare so because it makes abortions quadruple, and you trying to kill as many Israelites as you possibly can. But the Spirit is always going to find its way to the person willing to accept it. So it's just automatic. Ain't no way around it. You understand? So I just wanted to. I didn't mean to go this long for you, but if you have any questions, I'm in. You can hit the little chat thingy. Appreciate you for listening. Peace.